I think where it all started for me is, even as a kid, I just had a strong desire to make things, whether it be wood, concrete, metal. We make sinks out of precast concrete, and we also hand-age brass faucets. And I think, honestly, for most people, there's this inner drive to want to carry something out. So I think of half of the battle in learning something that could be sophisticated is really that you have a strong desire to see it happen. The process of creating a piece really starts, obviously, with inspiration. I generally start with inspiration where I will take a magazine that I've seen, something that's inspired me over the years, I'll cut them out and I'll pin them up, and I'll come to this periodically to draw upon for inspiration when I'm going to create a piece. From here, I'll start my sketches and some drawings to try and figure out what exactly I want to do and hone in on it. When it comes to our antique brass, this is my collection of old hose bibs. This actually came from Russia. And I love collecting old brass fixtures because it's the inspiration for the finish on what we want to do, end result with our products. This is my son Aaron. He's been with me since March, and he's really my right-hand man at this point in time. Today we're going to cast what we call our 5-foot cast iron trough sink. When it comes to the actual casting process of the piece, we will put together a mixed design that really is about the weight of what we think the sink would weigh. We will start with the sand. We'll add Portland cement. We generally add the color, whatever color is going in there. We add the color at that point to the sand. At that point, we'll add our admix, our polymer, and we'll add water. The last step is we're going to want to add some fiberglass fibers to our mix. The fiberglass is really what gives the concrete, and especially a sink this long, some strength. Once the fibers are mixed, it's time to actually set it into the rubber mold. We use vibration, in this case vibration table, to draw the air that gets trapped in the mix to come out. Okay, so we are finished vibrating. This is pretty much the end of the casting. What we're going to do is we're going to come back tomorrow and we're going to demold it and see what it looks like. I bought this old church about 3 years ago. It was abandoned, and we bought it with no running water, with no sewer, and we've been working on it ever since we bought it. All right, so now that this sink is cured for a day, we're going to go ahead and demold it. The most intricate thing is really trying to figure out how to make the negative image, because when you're making a mold, unlike most things where if you're building a table, you start with a piece of wood and you shape the table. When you're a mold maker for something like a concrete sink, you actually are making the negative cavity around it instead of the actual sink itself. What we do is we stick this in the grinding room and we hit it with a honer, and it'll get this thing relatively flat and parallel. So what we're doing now is we're filling the air holes. When you do a mix of concrete, air gets entrained in the mix. So he's going to go through with a grout. It's really made up from a matter of some Portland cement, a little bit of fine sand, and some color that's coordinated with the sink. And he's going to go ahead and fill these air holes, and then we can go ahead and put a finish on this. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply a sealer to get this sink so that it's pretty much waterproof, chemical proof, and so on, and we have a nice protective coating on the sink. The last coat takes about a couple hours to dry, and from that point forward we can put it in a box and it's ready to ship. You know, I started this whole messing around with concrete 23 years ago. It was around the same time my son was born. And one of the most awesome moments for me, especially the last few weeks, has been to just look across the shop and see my son over in the corner casting a sink. And I think, you know, when I started this, he was just an infant, and here he is, like, picking up the rope and carrying the load alongside me. And I don't think there's, as a parent, I don't think there's a much better feeling than that.